Hi guys. Good evening. It is Raul. Hello, Bill Kuhn. Hello, over the treetops. Good to see you guys. Yeah. This is gonna be a bit of a different one. Hopefully, it'll come out okay. I, I mentioned on Twitter that it's gonna be kind of a dry run for a presentation I'm doing next week for a class. And so I'm gonna make you guys kind of the guinea pigs on it, and I'm gonna kind of go through it. And if you guys think I could change the order of slides, or I should explain some things more or some things less, that type of thing, we're gonna hopefully go over that. Slat Studio, good to see you. Sting1JP, good to see you. Eden Waith, hello, hola, hola. And it is a good evening, great evening. Yeah, so there are a few things I wanted to share in terms of updates before we get started. The first thing is I learned today that I was nominated for by CanadianGameDevs.com for their most anticipated Canadian game, which was really cool. So I'm going to just throw a link up for that. And so you can vote. If you think that The Crimson Diamond is your most anticipated Canadian game, then you can check that link out. But yeah, that was really cool. I was not expecting that. That was a super, super surprise. Judith Butler's lover, good to see you. Always good to see you. So that's the first thing. And what else do we have? Also, Graham Welko, thank you for following me 6 minutes ago. That did pop up as I was prepping, so I figured I might as well say that too. Cosmic Void 3. Oh, it is your personal most anticipated Canadian game too? Nice, okay. That's good to know. Oh, and you're excited about the presentation, Eden With? Okay, good. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. A few things. So yeah, first thing was the nomination for the most anticipated Canadian game. Second thing is I discovered that I do have emojis. We have more emojis, you guys. And I don't know how you guys get them. There's different tiers of them. I've just put them in chat. Hi, Mousimus. No, Judith Butler's lover, you did not miss it. Actually, I put the trailer into the slide presentation that I have. So it's in there. It's baked in, so we're not going to miss it. But yeah, there are other emojis now. There's a Jack emoji, a Nessa emoji, the usual Laura, Nancy emoji, and there's a little Crimson Diamond logo emoji. Yeah, I don't know how you guys access those. Oh, you don't see the Crimson Diamond on the ballot? Did I just give a bad link? I don't know. That's a good question. Let me take a look. Let me take a look at what I've done. Second Cow, good to see you. Yeah, I don't. Let me check the link. Well, that was a mistake. Hold on. I will give a look, and we will see. And of course, we can say, Happy Crimson Tuesday. Vote here. Okay, what have I done? Okay, what have I done? Sign up for next. Oh, please. Okay, what is the most best? Okay, the first list is for best Canadian developed game released in 2020. Yeah, the second question. Okay, yeah, Over the Treetops has it right. The second question in the poll is most anticipated. Okay, the survey is 4 questions. Okay, yeah, Bill Kuhn, yeah, there are 4 pages. So yeah, I'm relieved that I didn't mess that up. Okay. Right. Tuesday, yes. Oh, Slash Studio Tuesday is now recognized by your spell check. I like it. Happy Crimson Tuesday. This is fun. Yeah, this is good. That's good. I like that. Okay, so nomination emojis. Today I finally mailed out the holiday card, the 2020 holiday card. So the Patreon patron people, the $5 tier people will get it first, hopefully. And next week, I guess today, next week or something, I will share it on Twitter and other places what the card looks like. But yeah, that finally happened. I know it's a little late. It's probably the latest I've ever done it. But I feel like maybe because of the new year and stuff, it's kind of, we're going to enter that lull of January and February, the post-festive lull. And maybe the card will be welcome at that time, hopefully. Anyway, yeah, so whoever is getting a card, look forward to that, and hopefully it gets to you guys soon. The other things. What other things do I have? Okay. I think that's about it in terms of updates. I think that's it. I think that's it in terms of updates. So we're gonna get started, but I guess, well, I mean, I don't even have to introduce myself like I usually would because I'm going to do that on the presentation. Just a few background things about the presentation. It is for a graphic communications class, a grade 10 graphics communications class. They're working on a unit on 8-bit graphics, EGA graphics, and limited color palettes. When I make a presentation for something, my first question is, yeah, who is the audience? You know, what is their level of knowledge and all that? Because that's kind of the most important thing when putting together something like this is, well, the first thing is, yeah, who's the audience? That's absolutely number one. Number two is, if I was in that audience, what would I want to hear? What would I be looking for? Oh, Eating With says, blame the printers of the cards for any delays, or claim you mailed them a month ago. Well, the thing is, Eating With, actually, so it's a really boring story, but I ordered holiday cards from the printing house. And I did not know a holiday card was not an actual open and closed card. A holiday card to them is like a one-sided card, like this, like a postcard. And so I ordered holiday cards, and when I got them, they were postcards. They were just one-sided, and that's not what I wanted, and that's not what I said people would get. So I just redid the job. But the Patreon people who get the card are getting also the postcard of it too, as kind of a I'm sorry for delay. And the postcard ones came with like a round the Crimson Diamond sticker. It's supposed to be a seal on the outside of the envelope, but I figured they'd probably just want the sticker, so I just scotch taped all the envelopes shut. Thanks for voting, Bilkun. Cress up, good to see you. Welcome to another stream. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that Eden Way. So yeah, this class that is such an awesome set of things. So this teacher has been teaching his class 8-bit graphics, EGA graphics, limited color palettes, and he emailed me and said, I've used the Crimson Diamond art in my class, and would you like to come on and talk and give a presentation about kind of the stuff that I do? And I was super excited about it because I remember when I was in grade 7 and my middle school teacher, Mr. Watkins, he had a friend, Ken Lashley, who was the comic artist on Excalibur, which is a Marvel comic. And it kind of blew me away, and it super inspired me to get more into art and be more interested in art. Because I'd kind of always loved doing art when I was a kid, but I kind of let it slide. It sounds like such a not kid thing to say, but yeah, I kind of let it slide when I guess I got really more into school. But when this guy came into our grade 7 class and showed his artwork, and I was just really inspired by the idea that you could make money drawing pictures, and it kind of probably changed the trajectory of what I was going to end up doing. Although I still took a lot of math and science courses. I did end up going to art college after all that. I narrowly missed going to Queen's University for computer science. I just I followed my heart and my gut on that one, and I have to say that I don't regret it. So my hope is, maybe somebody will watch the presentation and think that maybe they want to make games, even if it is for a hobby, which is fine too, and I think that's really rewarding, or getting into commercially or anything like that, really. And Davor, thank you for subscribing. Yay, math and science, Davor says. Thank you for 5 months, amazing. Thank you. Hey, Jim Plays Games. Yes, oh good, you got the new, yeah, so everyone I think has access to that Crimson Diamond logo emoji. But the Jack and the Nessa ones might be a tier thing, which I don't even know how to get. Over the Treetops says, I'm so glad you followed your gut. I am glad too. And I feel like the times in my life I followed my gut actually worked out really well, and although I was terrified at the time. I was terrified. My last year of high school was very stressful because I'd always thought I would go into math and science. I thought I'd become an engineer or some kind of computer something or other, because I'd never really imagined myself doing other stuff. I actually took an enriched semester doing math and science at the Ontario Science Centre, and it was a awesome semester, and I made a lot of friends that I still have to this day. And I was the only one who kind of didn't. Oh, I'm almost the only one out of a class of 28 enriched math and science students who did not go into something, you'd either become a doctor or engineer or dentist or something. But yeah, I don't regret it. That was a good choice. And the other transition I made, and following my gut, I will get into in the presentation. Oh, so yeah, Eden West says when he was in middle school, he had a local author come in and teach some writing courses. That's very cool. Yeah, we actually had some authors. I remember that also in elementary school, we had some like children's book authors come in and show us how to set up a children's book, because this was 500 years ago. They were showing us like cut and paste and like paste up on spreads and stuff, not like digitally. It was all done on paper and gluing things to other things, blocks of text and stuff. I remember that too. It's funny how much we remember from our elementary school days, for sure. Oh, Jim plays games. Said, I'm glad you decided to follow your heart and that it worked out. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. I'm trying to do that now, even, and it can be scary, though. It can be really scary. You can never be a dentist, the deluxe talks. My mom was actually a dental hygienist for quite a long time. Yeah, I don't know. No one likes the dentist. It's a tough job for sure. So what else do we have? Okay, I think that's it. We're gonna get into the presentation, but a few things about the presentation. I am planning on posting it up on the YouTube channel, so I'm not gonna have notifications on while I'm doing the presentation, because I don't want to have that noise in the background popping up for no reason. So I'll go back if there's any notifications after I finish it. That's when I will read out whatever notifications have happened. And I'm not going to be reading chat either at all while I'm doing the presentation. And I might not even scroll up after. After the presentation is finished, I'm going to just start looking at chat then and seeing if you guys have any suggestions or questions or comments. So that's about it, I think. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So remember, this is for a grade 10 graphics communications class, which I looked up, and apparently what they do in a graphics communications class is, oh no, I wrote it down somewhere. It's art, it can be illustration, it can be video, it can be logos, working with typography, yeah, all that kind of stuff. So it's a general course on a bunch of like, visual language, basically. Chenti999, thank you for the follow. Hey, Mega Hammer Studios, good to see you. Yes, guilt-free heckling. I won't read it. I could still, but I'm not planning to, because I just don't want to think about the chat. I'm going to be pretty focused on what I'm trying to say and not repeat the same words over and over again. Oh no, yeah, Jim plays games. I'm going to do it live for them. But for the benefit of anyone who wants to like watch it or show it to other people, then that's why I want to put it up on YouTube. So what's going to happen is I'm going to probably like chop the presentation. I won't have this preamble part in it necessarily. I might actually do two versions, one with the preamble and after, and one that is just the video. But I kind of feel like for me, when I'm doing a presentation like this, it's more energizing for me to know that someone's actually listening while I'm doing it, even though it's a little bit more nerve-wracking that way. But I feel like if I just record it just on my own with no one else in the room, it will be less interesting and it'll have less energy. So that's why I'm kind of trying to do it this way. And who's to say I won't try to do this again at some point and just try to do it better. But I'm hoping I can get it all done in one. Okay, so I'm going to turn off this music. Great. We're going to get into the PowerPoint. I was going to say Photoshop because it starts with a P and I just completely drew a blank. Okay. We are going to go now into the PowerPoint. And that is what I do here. Okay. Just want to make sure everyone can see and hear. In chat, I just want verification that you can see and hear me. Well, not see me, but you can see the slide and you can hear me. And then I'll get cracking. And I probably should time this too. It's supposed to be about 40 minutes. The class is 50 minutes long. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Okay, good. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to set a stopwatch here and see how it goes. Great. Mads Hatter, good to see you. Okay, great. So I'm going to set the timer. I'm nervous, you guys. This is different. Okay. Hi, I'm Julia Minamata. I am a game developer and an illustrator, and I'm working on a computer game right now that I'm hoping to commercially release later this year. I went to art school. I went to a special art high school. I went to an arts college, and I got a Bachelor of Applied Arts Illustration. I picked up all the other skills on how to make a game on the way and kind of after my actual formal education. So I think it's kind of important for people to remember that when you finish school, that's not necessarily the end of your learning, and it really shouldn't be. You should continue to want to cultivate your skills and learn new skills. And when I started making the Crimson Diamond, I've learned so much. I'm still learning, and I think that's really important. And it kind of helps me stay engaged and interested in what I'm doing when there's so many new things to learn about. And here are some of my illustrations that I did during about the 10 years I worked as a freelance illustrator. I specialized in editorial illustration, which means I did a lot of work for magazines, a magazine cover, newspapers, and that's pretty much it. That's what I specialized in for the most part. And I don't know if you can tell from these samples, but I already kind of had a pretty flat style in terms of what the colors are. And the colors were already a rather limited palette. I tended to gravitate toward that style. And so when I started making the Crimson Diamond and I gravitated toward a very particular color palette, it was natural for me to do that. And here is the Crimson Diamond. It is a very specific look, and it might not be familiar to a lot of people, but it's a look that I think has become pretty popular nowadays in terms of how blocky and pixelated the art is. You can see it, all the lines are kind of jaggedy, and the color palette, at least in this instance, is pretty limited. There's probably about 5 or 6 colors here. And like I said, most of the work is done by me in terms of the writing and the programming, the art and the animation. But I do have an amazing musician working with me on this game. It is Dan Polakar, who has worked with Romero Games and released Empire of Sin recently, and he happens to be a Grammy nominated artist with piano and keyboards and things with Sean Paul. So it's the two of us working on this together, and it's been a real educational experience for sure. And here is the trailer to give you an idea of what that game looks like. Okay, well, this might not mean much to a lot of people watching potentially, but this might mean something for people who are familiar with this particular style of graphics and color palette. The Sierra Era and the EGA color palette. Here are some examples of games that were made in the late 80s and early 90s that had the same color palette and the same basic style. And what's cool about this is at the time that these games are created, this very particular and limited color palette that you see along the bottom of the screen was a technological limitation. That was all they got. That's all the artists were given. And I have it on good authority that the artists that were working at the time were not happy with this. I've spoken to Mark Ferrari, who worked for LucasArts on Loom and Zack McCracken and The Secret of Monkey Island, and Douglas Herring, who worked on The Colonel's Bequest for Sierra and In Quest for Glory 2. They hated this palette because to them it told them what they couldn't do. But when I was a kid growing up playing these games, that was the last thing on my mind. I was thrilled to have these games, and they filled me with so many warm memories and happy moments that when I started to make the Crimson Diamond, and it was started out as a hobby project, I instantly thought back to this time. And here are some screenshots for the Crimson Diamond. It is pretty clear that I've taken, I don't want to say borrowed, but I've taken very heavily inspiration from that style from Sierra games. In color, as hopefully as well with artistic style, although I did try to make the Crimson Diamond look stylistically distinctive from the other games. The color palette for me is clear nostalgia, and that is the definite inspiration point for the project. And what's cool about the nostalgia factor is that it kind of helps the game stand out when I show it at events. This photograph was from Adventure X in London last year, around November. And I got this big retractable banner on the left hand side here. And what was cool for me when I've shown the game is I'm sitting at this table and I want to show the game demo to people. And when people walk by, if I see their eyes light up in recognition, I immediately know that I can, approach them and say hi, or does this look familiar to you, or do you remember games that look like this? And it was really cool and really motivating to see people get excited when they see this particular color palette, because not a lot of games nowadays have this color palette anymore. There are people who are working in the color palette now, but it's not really as common as a lot of other retro types of conventions. Something that really surprised me, actually pleasantly surprised me, was when I was showing the game, and there would be kids that would gravitate toward the banner as well because of how colorful the colors are. And I did not expect that at all. And it kind of made me more optimistic about releasing the game and not just having people my age play the game, be interested in the game, but having this other generation of people who had not seen the style before kind of get drawn in by that. And of course, I'm not the only one who's used nostalgia as inspiration for my game. We have here on the right Return of the Obra Dinn, released in 2018. And on the left, we have Dark Castle, which was released in 1986. Lucas Pope, who developed Return of the Obra Dinn, has said that the Apple II graphics, the black and white graphics that he used to play games with, really did inspire him visually for his game. And of course, on the bottom, we have Shovel Knight on the right-hand side, released in 2016, and Mega Man X, released in 1993. I would venture to guess that most people who have played and enjoyed both Return of the Obra Dinn and Shovel Knight wouldn't have remembered the style from, potentially from other, generations ago, really. But it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it has a distinctive visual style that people just gravitate toward, they get excited by. And of course, it's a bonus for people like me who do have fond memories of that time, of their lives in that particular era. And it's not just a matter of nostalgia. There are practicalities towards working in a limited color palette or a low resolution art style. And what I mean by that is the Dark Side Detective, which was created by Spooky Doorway. They started out with a 12-hour game jam prototype, and the working size of that prototype was 142 by 80 pixels, really tiny. But it's a game jam, which means you have to get everything done really quickly. And when they decided they were eventually going to release this game commercially, they initially thought that they were going to upgrade the graphics completely. But they had gotten such positive reception from the pixel art style that they decided to just upscale the artwork by 400% and add some additional lighting effects. We have here a bunch of great games with small teams working at a low resolution. And I'll kind of explain what low resolution means in a couple slides, I think. But I just wanted to give an overview of some really wonderful projects that didn't take very long time to make, did not take very big teams to make, and had a very full-fledged, satisfying gameplay experience. We have Lamplight City, which was made by Francisco Gonzalez. Took about 2 years development time and has 10 hours of gameplay on the left there, upper left. Bottom left, we have Unavowed, which was made, I'm not sure, probably about half a dozen people, definitely less than 10 people. 2 years of development, 10 hours of gameplay again. Kathy Rain, which is about 5 people or so. The project took about 4 years part-time, although the developer said that if he had just dedicated full-time work to it, it would have taken about a year, again with 10 hours of gameplay. And the Crimson Diamond, which is my project, which I'm hoping will have taken 3 years full-time development, 7 to 10 hours of gameplay. And as a discussion of resolution, so Lamplight City was developed 640 by 400 pixel resolution. Just to give an example of other games, like AAA games or Zelda, Breath of the Wild, for instance, was done, I think, in, I have a note here, 1080p or 720p, which is basically 3 times the resolution, I think, 3 or 4 times the resolution. But that's a 3D game, and it took 400 people 3 years or 4 years to develop. Unavowed is another game, the bottom left here, 640 by 400 pixel resolution, 320 by 240 pixel resolution for Kathy Rain. Oops, and the Crimson Diamond is 320 by 200 pixel resolution. And what that means is low resolution graphics. So this is just a kind of an example where 320 pixels I made to 32 by 20 pixels, and then the one on the right is 64 by 40 pixels. Just to give an idea of what that does to the artwork. It's the same basic, they're not exactly the same size rectangle, but they're the same basic size that you would imagine you'd see on a monitor. But of course, when you fit more squares into that same space, you get smaller squares, which means the art can get more detailed, it's less blocky, and it can take, I think, more time to develop art that way. But I think there are advantages to working in a blockier art style. And that kind of brings us to some of the artwork that I've done for the Crimson Diamond in this EGA color palette, which you see the 16 colors along the left-hand side here. And for me, I find that people get really surprised when they see some screenshots because they don't think that these 16 colors can be all that versatile. But the magic of working at 320 by 200 pixels, a fairly big blocky size, is you can take advantage of an effect called dithering, which is checkerboards of alternating colors of 2 of the 16 colors to create a third color. And so we have on the left-hand side here we have a bunch of different versions of the same building trying to duplicate different lighting conditions at different times of day. Because the Crimson Diamond has a daytime and a nighttime, and I wanted to have that reflected in the exterior shots. So we have on the right-hand side here, we have what the game looks like in terms of when it's daytime, what it looks like, at nighttime, what it looks like. And here's a close-up of some of that dithering that I was talking about. So it's pretty clear on the carriage house doors, these big red double doors, that we have some shading done with a dark gray and a dark red on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have cyan and dark red as well. And you can see how only one of the colors has changed here. We have dark gray on the left, we have dark cyan on the right, but the effect is completely different. And when we get into the grass here, the grass on the right-hand side is solid cyan, and the grass on the left-hand side is actually the dark cyan and the dark green color. But they're so close in value that it becomes this third color, really. And that's what's exciting to me about working at this resolution, is that you can still see those pixels, and you can see what they're doing. But when you take a step back, you get that overall effect. And here is a closer look at what I mean by those dithers. Along the bottom right, we have the 16 colors again. But we have on the left here, we have a very helpful chart, a grid of every two color dither pattern that can be achieved in the EGA color palette. And it ends up being 256 different kinds of grid patterns. And if we zoom into these eight, you can see that they start to resolve into checkerboard patterns. And when you zoom up to the top right here, just how riotous the two colors are here, the bright red, the bright green. But when you shrink it down to the game resolution that it would be, it becomes more subdued. And when you zoom out even further, it becomes this rather plain olive green color. You wouldn't imagine that this olive green color was obtained by using a bright red and bright green checkerboard, but to me that's what's really exciting about working at this resolution with these particular colors. Here's an example of some dithering, a kind of style of dithering, but done with paint. This is Georges Seurat, who worked in pointillism. And what he would do is he would take these dabs of colors. This was not on a grid, but the principles are about the same, where he would use, particular colors to achieve light and shadow by putting them next to each other and overlapping them, but not blending them, which is kind of the key here in this case. And the reason Georges Seurat did this is he wanted the colors to be as vibrant as possible. And he wanted, so the brilliance of the colors are not lost by blending. And we take a look at, here is the whole painting, and we can see on the right hand side there's that same man. Of course the other color one is quite saturated, but the idea being it resolves to more less bright colors when your eye blends those things together. But upon closer inspection it can be really quite brilliant, and that's the part of the dithering in the 16 color palette that I think is really cool. Here are some examples of day and night screens taken from the Crimson Diamond. And I have to say that what I love about this particular color palette is the day is and the night are just about as bright as each other. And I might even say that the nighttime is actually almost brighter in color, because the EGA color palette has nothing to do with dark colors really. There's a dark gray and there's a light gray, but it's not a matter of just putting like a transparent filter of dark navy blue or something on top of them to create the illusion of darkness. It's a matter of completely switching one color for another. The illusion of depth can be tricky when working at in this color palette when you only have these 16 colors. You can see on the left side here that we have the colors as I kind of put them in kind of a standard rainbow order, as you would imagine. But the color palette right to the next to it is sort of more of a value dark to light type of arrangement. And I just wanted to quickly go over some of the ways to create that sense of depth with the color palette. This first image here on the top left, we have this issue of having the green and cooler colors with less contrast at the back. And then we have much brighter colors, bigger shapes, higher contrast in the front. White is used very sparingly in the front here as well. And the shapes of the rock face are smaller as we work ourselves into the distance here. And the dithering, the dark gray dithering also knocks back that area in the back and creates that sense of depth. In the top right hand side, we have another way to show depth. This the blue trees in the background here, where we have sort of the outlines of trees that are colored blue. It's kind of a way to use atmospheric perspective. And what atmospheric perspective is you will see it in photos or paintings where you can see quite far into the distance, so mountains and forests and things like that. And what happens is those things that are far in the distance become less detailed. They become fuzzy and they become either gray or cooler in color or bluer, because if the sky is blue, then you get the water particles in the air interfering with your impression of what you're looking at. And so that's what I've done here with the orchard. It will push itself back. We have the brighter cyan of these apple trees in the foreground. The bottom left here with this interior room with the yellow wallpaper, I don't do a lot of depth because it's a room, it wouldn't have a lot of depth, but I have taken advantage of a dark gray dither on top of the wallpaper pattern just to make that back wall recede. In the bottom right, we have a hallway that uses a lot of the principles of creating depth. We have the sconces on the wall getting smaller as we go into the distance. We have the doorways as well getting smaller. We have actually 3 stages of depth in the carpet. We have the largest, the part that's closest to us with the largest pattern, the intermediate pattern here, where the dither of the dark gray is, or black, it might be black, knocking it back, the pattern's getting smaller, and the third part of the rug at the very back, completely, there's no pattern to be seen there. And what it hopefully does is it does create that impression that it's a long, dark hallway. And here is that illusion of depth I was talking about in terms of atmospheric perspective, with the mountains and the hills in the back becoming hazier, becoming bluer as they go back. And so that's something that I try to do when I'm using the exterior, creating the exteriors for the Crimson Diamond. And here's some illusion of light and shadow as seen in some other examples in adventure games that have the same color palette. The top left, we have Space Quest. And actually, I rearranged the EJ color palette into the way that I think it was probably planned, where you have these 8 colors and then you have the darker version of those 8 colors. And so when you're looking at light and shadow in some of these examples, you can see very clearly, yeah, so we have this sandy area here, this yellow sand, and then with this outcropping casting a shadow, we go to its neighboring, the dark version of that color, to create the illusion that the shadow is being cast on this shape. And what for me is really interesting about this too is you have the texture of the sand here. We have brown and white speckles in the sand. And when those textures get carried over into the darker section, we have the speckles becoming light gray and black. And your mind doesn't think that these are completely distinct shapes and patterns. We kind of connect them in a way to feel like it's all one thing, it's just a matter of light and shadow. The bottom left was another Space Quest image, and what I like about this one is it shows that you don't necessarily have to follow directly across when you're deciding what will be the shadow color of a lit portion. And so this is an outer space station with this beautiful a magenta color, and then the shadow is actually the dark blue, which is darker, but it's not the neighboring color. And what I love about this is it gives that real otherworldly, unnatural kind of color in effect. And so it doesn't really matter necessarily to follow directly across when you're deciding light and shadow in these games. And a lot of times it has to do with the context of the rest of the image. The top right, we have using dithering to create that illusion of light and shadow. So this screenshot is from the Colonel's Bequest. And we're using black dithering on not only the side of the house, but also on the lawn here, and also on the stairway. And what's interesting is this rounded pillar is using a bunch of different colors of dithering to create the sense of something that's rounded, a rounded form, which can be seen more clearly on the bottom right, which is a Quest for Glory screenshot that gives the illusion of a halo effect on the back wall lit by this candle, merely by swapping one of the 2 colors of the dither out for a successively darker color. And as an example here we have close-up, we have the light gray and brown dither moves into the dark gray and brown dither, which then moves into the black and brown dither. And I think that's really fascinating, the way that can all be done so elegantly just with swapping out a single color. And here is a kind of a process look at how I would generate my screens. So this is a piece that's in the Crimson Diamond. It's 320 by 200 pixels wide. You can tell by the animated process that I tend to add the dithers in last. I want the image to work on its own before that, and then kind of have that as a bit of a polish to add a bit of depth. But hopefully it will work even before the dither is applied. And I'll just let it run through one more time. Great. Okay, so here is the finished image. So I'm using a lot of the principles that I explained earlier, where you've got the blue outlines of the trees in the background, the size and contrast of the trees increases as we come to the front, and then we have these big tree shapes also in the front, and the dithering that got applied gives the impression of a dark forest going into a dark forest. And what I use for art, I use Adobe Photoshop CS2, which is an old version of Adobe Photoshop. It's full featured, it's powerful, it can do just about anything. I used it as well in my freelance illustration and for imaging, images, image manipulation, photos, all that type of thing. The drawback of CS2 was it was expensive at the time. It is my main art program still, and this version is not easily available. It's now available through Adobe Creative Cloud, which is a subscription service. For me, I currently work on an 8-year-old laptop, and for me, CS2 has always been enough, so I plan on sticking with CS2 for just about as long as I can. But there is another program that I've been exploring, which is called Aseprite. And Aseprite is a specialized pixel art and animation software. And it does have some features that aren't available in Photoshop, at least not in Photoshop CS2. What's great about Aseprite is it's made for pixel art in mind, and that's it. So it specializes very much in that. Photoshop is a very broad program and very deep program, but Aseprite, because it's designed for pixel artists, it has some wonderful quality of life features and some really cool dithering effects that Photoshop does not have. And it's about $20 USD. It sometimes goes on sale. I think I got mine for 15. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth the price. And there are a lot of artists who work commercially in pixel art that do use Aseprite. And another program I use is called Medibank Paint. There's a free version. There's a more fully featured version that's $8. One of the features it includes in the paid version is you can export Photoshop files, which is really cool. But I actually used the unpaid version, the free version, for quite some time before I ended up getting the paid version. And one of the advantages, first of all, it is full featured, it is powerful. You can see I have an EGA color palette that I've already built for myself. It's also optimized for iPads and tablets. And for me, when I'm traveling, if I'm on a train, or if I just don't feel like hunching over my desk anymore, the form factor of an iPad is really fantastic for just bringing with me anywhere. And so I'll use it for when I don't want to be chained to my desk necessarily. There is an alternative to Photoshop if you're still interested in having a program that is that fully featured, and it's called GIMP. GIMP is free and open source. It's free, it's full featured, it's powerful. It's similar to Photoshop, but it's frustrating if you are so used to Photoshop like I am that the second GIMP does not behave exactly the same way as Photoshop, frustration sets in. But I do recommend it for if you're interested in something that will do just about anything you could possibly want. And it is free, so that it's kind of hard to argue with that. And how I started. This game started as a pixel art hobby project. I mentioned at the top that I was a freelance illustrator for 10 years. And my specialty was editorial illustration, which is magazine and newspaper. But the problem is I was having trouble getting work. I would promote myself and send out postcards and to do all that type of thing, enter contests, and I just never seemed to be able to gain that much momentum. And 10 years in, I was thinking actually about 8 or 9 years in, I was thinking, 10 years in, I'll reevaluate and I'll see, do I need to change what I'm trying to do? Do I need to I pivot? I don't know if that's a word people like to use anymore, but should I pivot to something else? And it was really hard because I felt like I had gone to school, I'd specialized so closely in one thing, and it felt like I was giving that up to do something else. And that was really my second stressful time in my life was that. But because I was getting less and less paid work, I had more and more time to explore my other projects. And the Crimson Diamond started as a hobby project just like that. And the first things I did was this portrait, this animated portrait you see here. And I created this. You can already see she kind of already looks like the Nancy Maple character. And on the right was a limited palette version that I just forced in Photoshop to make a limited color version. I think it's about 8 colors or something. And I immediately liked that one better. I also made a set of sprites for it. very briefly. So that's the first Nancy Maple character, who was the 256 color or VGA type of sprite. But the first room I made was in the EGA color palette, because the first room I made was, that's when I stopped and thought, well, what rooms do I like as examples of pixel art? And my first instinct was to go with the Colonel's Bequest, because the Colonel's Bequest had, to me, the most beautiful pixel art, and it was set in a house too. Later, though, I created the character for scale. So you have Nancy, who looks pretty similar to what she looks like now. But I made the room first, and after I made the character, I realized that a lot of the furniture was not really that well in scale. The set of drawers here and everything is much too deep, it's much too big. So I realized I needed to kind of give it a second try. And my second try room was the kitchen, which is in the Crimson Diamond. And so for me, I got really excited because I had this character that I could put up, and I could have her be able to reach the cupboards and the drawers, and everything seemed to be working better. I started to build more rooms, and I decided to, yeah, the EGA color palette I decided on, but I think I was pretty much already there when I started building the rooms. And I started learning Adventure Game Studio to connect these rooms that I've been building together. Adventure Game Studio, I'll talk about a little bit later, but it is a game engine that is specifically for making adventure games. And I started learning it bit by bit because I wanted my character to be able to walk around in these rooms. I wanted her to be able to walk behind the furniture. I wanted her to be able to walk through the doorways and get somewhere else. And very slowly, the lodge as it is in the game started to come together. And not only that, the story and characters also started to evolve in that same way. Because when I was building the lodge, I was starting to ask myself questions like, well, who lives here and who built this and why is my character here and all that type of stuff. And so for me, I guess it was working backwards from a setting, which I don't think is that usual, but for me it really worked. At least in this particular project, it worked because I had this whole idea for a place that I wanted to create, and it kind of involved so many of my outside interests that doing the research for the story and the characters was a real joy for me and super educational. So Crimson Ontario is a fictional place. It's based in Northern Ontario. It's based on Canadian ghost towns and local history, which was, again, one of my interests. When I go to a place, I like to visit their local museum because not every little town makes it. And the ones that do should be proud and are proud that they've made it into the modern era. There are so many examples of, especially in the the late 1800s, early 1900s, of places that got settled, that were mining towns, that were timber and all that type of thing that don't exist anymore. And so that to me was really interesting, and the story of why that would happen. It became natural for me to think of making Crimson Ontario a mining town, or an old mining town that is basically deserted now. And it was important to me that it be geologically and mineralogically realistic, because that's another one of my interests, is the geology and the mineralogy of this whole idea. And so when I started doing research of where could this place be, I started looking at places that could have diamonds and may have diamonds and actually do have diamonds. In fact, the story of the game, I forgot to mention, is that you are playing this character, Nancy Maple, and there is a diamond find in the area, which means she gets sent up north by her boss to investigate this diamond claim. I wanted to make sure that there could actually conceivably be diamonds in those areas, and there really are diamond mines in Northern Ontario. It's also inspired by my own experiences in Northern Ontario, my own photos of parts of Northern Ontario. And that was another thing too. It's just a matter of taking my life experiences and stuff I'm interested in and kind of putting it all in one thing. This section is about game development tools. This is where I'll mention Adventure Game Studio, but I also wanted to introduce other game development tools that I have not used, but if you're interested at all in making games, I just wanted to show that there is a vast variety of tools you can use that cater to different genres and different skill levels in different areas. The first one is RenPy, which is free. It is for sort of visual novel style games. If you are interested in the art, making really beautiful art for your game, having a pretty straightforward story, it's a really good one to try, I think. The most famous example is Doki Doki Literature Club, which is free on itch.io, which I will talk about later as well. but Ren'Py is one of them if you're interested in a visual novel style of game. Then we have Twine, which is, as you can see, it's based around flowcharts. It's free as well. It's if you're interested in writing stories, maybe not necessarily as much with the graphics part of it, but it's a way to create interactive stories and nonlinear storytelling. And one of the examples that is pretty famous is something called Depression Quest. There's RPG Maker, which if you're interested in making tile-based Japanese RPGs, that's a really good one to try, I think. There's a free trial available, or it's available for $28. And an example of a commercial release made in RPG Maker is something called To the Moon. Pico 8 is a remarkably full-featured game creation tool for $15. I just love the aesthetic of the user interface. I love how you can make platformers with it, you can make RPGs, you can make just about anything. People have made and remade old classic games with this software. It's something really cool to try out. I definitely want to try it one day. And here's Adventuron. So Adventuron is another free one. What's really cool to me about Adventuron is that it's browser based. You can actually program your game in an internet browser window, and it has comprehensive tutorials and documentation. I have judged a game jam for Adventuron once, and I was very impressed by what I saw. There were a couple entries that were made by first-time game developers, and they were really great. This one I really like. It's a text parser engine, so if you want to play the game and interact with the game, you have to type into the text parser, which is what the Crimson Diamond also is. So if you want to open a door, you have to type into on your keyboard open door and all that type of stuff. What's really exciting to me about Adventuron as well is that you can play the games on mobile, which I think is a perfect way to play games with simple graphics and with the text interface. I've played a lot of the Adventuron Game Jam games on mobile, and it's really, really cool to see. It seems to be pretty easy to do that as well. So this one is one where, simple graphics I think are good. Also, people make really beautiful graphics too. But I want to impress upon you that you don't necessarily have to be an expert artist in any of these engines, particularly something like this, where traditionally the aesthetic has been fairly simple. Don't let that be something that will intimidate you. And that brings us to Adventure Game Studio, which is what I use. It's a free open source game creation engine. A couple of I think a few of the examples I've already shown of other games like Lamplight City, Unavowed, and Kathy Rain were also made in Adventure Game Studio. And what I love about Adventure Game Studio, as I said before, is it is purpose-built for making adventure games. And on the right-hand side, you can see, I don't know if you can read the setup here on the right-hand pane of this interface, but all the assets are separated into stuff that you could directly relate to an adventure game. We have rooms, we have characters, we have inventory items. Save and load functions are also baked into the functions of the game. And so for me, someone who had to learn the programming side on my own, that was super good. And it gave me a context to work from. Another great thing about Adventure Game Studio is it has a very active community. It has a very active forum. I've had technical difficulties with programming that I was able to post in the forums, and I would get several awesome solutions for that same problem. And that's really valuable too if you're learning something. Adventure Game Studio also has some great tutorials online too. So that's another really good thing if you're trying to learn something. And I basically had to learn, like I said, from beginning to end, Adventure Game Studio stuff, not in any type of class or course or school. It's all kind of after school learning. Then we have Game Maker, and this is sort of more fully featured. It's definitely it's more expensive, but not really that expensive. There's a free trial. There's a $39 for publishing games on Windows and Mac, but it's very versatile. It's you can see it's got a really good user interface as well. A couple of games made in Game Maker are Undertale and Spelunky, and I don't know if you've heard of those ones, but those ones are very very great success stories for Game Maker, I think. And itch.io I mentioned before. If you're interested in discovering hobbyist games, even commercially released games, if you're interested in learning about game jams, they hold game jams all the time online, and a lot of the games are free to play. There's a lot of wonderful stuff to find on itch.io. So if you're interested in dipping your toe into really creative and cool projects, small scale projects, large scale projects too. I would recommend checking out Itch.io if you don't already know it. And also, what's great about Itch.io for people who are considering selling their games is that they're probably the best in terms of the cut that they take. And people, you can also name your price for your game as well. So I definitely recommend if you're interested at all in exploring what games have to offer in a way that's not the big, huge, massive, multi-million-dollar games. If you're interested in something smaller and more unique, like I am, then this is a really good place to check out. And here's something I just wanted to include for fun, because pixel art, I guess by definition, is art that is created on a grid. And when I do a close up here of this character portrait, you can clearly see there's the checkerboard pattern is all based around grids. And that's a fun thing to kind of bring over into the real world, where I have actually done some cross stitching based on these same characters. And it's really cool to be able to take this and easily translate it into another medium. Which brings us to another fun one. So my mom is making a quilt of the Nancy Maple sprite, and it's a lot of fun to see it come together. And the fact that the graphics are this simple means that they do read really easily in other ways. So this is a really great one to see in the quilt. There's a cross stitch as well. So and even the emojis that can be found, and I've made emojis on Twitch when I stream, that they really read really super well because they're already so chunky and they're designed to be read that way. And here's some other work that I have made that is also pixel art, also has limited color palette. These were all made kind of, I feel like, as a result of me starting the Crimson Diamond and trying to promote it as much as I can. People do, like the people who remember the style, they really, it's really cool to have a character portrait in that same style. And it's a fun nostalgic thing that does read well, and it's kind of funny because I've started to do illustration commissions based on the hobby project that I started making when I wasn't getting enough illustration commissions. So that's kind of an irony there. On the right hand side, there is this piece I made for a humor website called 1900 Hot Dog. And it's a CGA color palette, actually. It's cyan, magenta, white, and black. And so that's an even more limited color palette than what I usually use, which is a 16 color palette. But there's a joy to working like this, and there is a nostalgia in this too that I do hope to revisit. Here's some social media and marketing. If you do want to release your game commercially, it is really important to get yourself out there as much as you can in terms of showing your work and showing people who you are and who you would be to work with. I have a Facebook fan page. I stream on Twitch here, bottom left, every week. I try to do every week, 8 p.m. Eastern. I do art streams, and my musician Dan Polakar, he'll do live composition of the Crimson Diamond music on stream, which is also really cool too. So we'll do that together. And so we try to do that. I mean, the holidays kind of got a bit chaotic, but hopefully we'll stick to that once a week stream schedule. And all of the streams do end up on my YouTube, bottom right. So I try to put them all up there. And Twitter is another good place to reach me. Twitter is a great tool for sort of finding other pixel artists if you get the right tags, like hashtag pixel art or pixel art dailies, or there's even a Japanese pixel art tag. And it's really wonderful to see so much great work out there that happens with the pixel art, and also finding other game devs too. In conclusion, EGA and other limited color palettes are fun and distinctive and can be time saving, which is great for, not only for commercially released projects, but also for hobby projects. Make a little game here and there, and not be too concerned about the art as much, because when you're working at a low resolution with a very small color palette, it actually, I find anyway, for me, it really freed me up because I was not that concerned of making something look realistic. The art ends up trying to be more symbolic than realistic. And what I mean by that is, I don't have a good example of it, but in EGA, if you have a round red circle with a brown rectangle, like a brown stick coming out of it, it instantly reads as an apple. Whereas if you had a higher resolution, game, you could get all tied up in making the apple look realistic. When for EGA, the shorthand of having a red circle with a brown stick on top immediately reads as an apple, and then that's all you really need to do with it. So it's a really good way to save time. And if you're not that confident about art, your art skills, that's a good way to be able to do your own art too. And game dev tools, they cater to a range of skill levels and anything. So there are some of those game engines that are more artistically focused. There are ones that are definitely more text focused. A lot of them are free or very economically priced. And I don't want anyone to be stopped by thinking, well, I'm not a great artist, so I can't make a game. Well, you don't even need graphics to make a game, or you can have very simple graphics to make a game. You don't need to be an expert programmer to make a game, especially nowadays where the tools have become so much easier to use. There are online resources to learn those tools as well. Don't be intimidated by thinking you don't have the skills necessary. You can either learn the skills yourself or you can, team up with other people who have those skills too. And so if you're interested at all in making games, there's so many wonderful ways to do that nowadays. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for listening to this talk. The Crimson Diamond, there is a free demo available on Steam. And if you have any questions, you can email me or go to the website, thecrimsondiamond.com, where you can find my email, social media links, and all of that. And yeah, I hope you find this useful, and thank you for listening to me. Okay, so yeah, I saw you guys right at the trailer that the trailer volume was too low, so I am definitely going to address that. And thank you for the raid as well. Um, I missed, or the host. Hold on, I'm gonna scroll back a bit because I promised I would do that because I said I wasn't gonna read it while I was doing the presentation. Yes, thank you, Hatney X. Thank you for raiding with a party of 10. That was awesome. Thank you, Sir Die a lot for the follow. Thank you, MD Wall Street, for the follow. Amberzine, thank you for subscribing. And thank you again for the follow. That's awesome. Yeah. So, you know what? I got to check how long that took. I probably talked really fast. Oh, 46 minutes. Oops, stop. 45 minutes. Okay, not bad. So, I did remove a few things. That was good. Okay, cool. So, let us look. Let us look. Okay, so feedback. Had good rhythm, okay. Enjoyable, okay, good. Thank you. Okay. 45 minutes. I was kind of hoping it to be 40 with about 10 minutes, but it's not a huge deal because, as I mentioned at the top, it was a 15-minute class. But yeah, I mean, in terms of anything you would like to see, I mean, well, we can't really explore anything more, but if there's anything there that you feel could have been less or not necessary or redundant. Okay, 45 minutes. Great. But yeah, besides the trailer, which I'm really not too sure what I can do about that. Maybe desktop audio. Okay, you know what, you guys? I'm going to open up the. I'm gonna go back to the to the to the to the slideshow, and I'm gonna pump up the desktop audio and then play the trailer, and we'll see if that makes a difference, and then you guys can tell me. Okay, 1 second.
Crimson, Ontario was once a prosperous, lively mining town. But that was a long time.
Was that louder? Oh, it's too loud. Okay, good. Okay, good. Okay, okay, okay. I'll take it down a notch, and we'll try that again. We'll try that again. Okay, okay.
Crimson, Ontario was once a prosperous, lively mining town. But that was a long time ago. Now it's quiet.
A little too quiet. Okay, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Okay, as soon as I'll look at the rest of the chat as soon as we figure this out. Okay, hold on. Okay, but now it's 2. Okay, let's go. And when I adjust this slider, does it affect anything else audio wise, or does it just affect this slideshow? Like, am I louder now? Up a wee. Okay, so let's just. Okay, I pumped it up a wee bit, so let's try that. Okay, let's see. Give me a second. Let us get back. Okay, here we go. So am I louder now, or is it just the same? And then I'll try the trailer.
Crimson, Ontario was once a prosperous, lively mining town. But that was a long time ago. Now it's quiet, nearly deserted, and some folks aim to keep it that way. Nancy Maple is an
Awesome. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Perfect. Thank you for the help. Okay, so I'm gonna just go back on chat to see what else there is. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, cool. Anyway, says most of your classes are about 15 minutes, so keeping the talk 45 minutes to be spot on. Okay, great. So the length is okay. Um, define adventure game briefly. Okay, yes, let's do that. Define adventure game briefly. Okay. Okay, great. And let's see. Bit of a buzz in the audio. Registered 99. I know it's something that has been with me forever, and I have not figured it out yet. I know it's hopefully it's not too bad of an issue for that. Okay, so let's see. Figured out the sound. Okay, check on if the resolution. Yeah, even with. Oh, I think I read somewhere that Breath of the Wild was 720p, which I wrote down somewhere what that means in pixels, but I don't have it here. But yeah, I should have a better example. Okay, so 1080. And does anyone have an example of a 1080p game? Like, is God of War 1080p? Okay. Yeah, Eden with, I know what you mean about having odd speech patterns and misspoken. There were a few awkward bits for sure. Um, yeah, I know, and of course using certain words too much, like so and and. Those are my two that I use too much, which I will write down. Yes, Judith Butler's Lover. This will be done over the internet. Okay. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be a 2D 1080p game, Jim. It just has to be any type of game. Okay, dynamic resolution. Okay. 720p is hand mode. Okay, 900p. Yeah, yeah, just any example of a 1080p game or whatever. I don't even know what big studios are doing resolution in because I don't really play them. For me, it's all about 300 by 200, 640 by 400. Usually depends more on the hardware than the game. I see. I see. So I mean, I guess most people aren't doing pixel art games, so they're not thinking in terms of pixel art dimensions. Anyway, it's not a big deal. Okay. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. Okay, designed for a range of resolutions. Going up to 4K. Yeah. I guess I could say that they designed for 720p to 4K. And then say what those pixel dimensions would be, because it might be fun just to have that. What pixel dimensions? Yeah. Yeah. And actually, speaking of Jim Plays Games, Jim is going to be hopefully streaming the Crimson Diamond next week. And I'm going to be in chat answering questions or just hanging out. So we're going to do that too. And I forget what day we said, Jim. What day did we say? Oh, maybe show my own version. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see. I will. Yeah, Thursday, 6 p.m. GMT. Thursday, 6 p.m. Not this Thursday, next week Thursday, January 14th. Okay, so I'm going to open up. Oh, nope. I'll open up that. Thank you. I will open that up in. Trying to send you. Okay, cool. Alright. I'll open that up in Safari. Keep that. Okay, cool. Thank you, Graham Wilco. I will look that up. Great. Yes. The 14th, yes. So January the 14th, 6 p.m. GMT, which is a Thursday. Jim will be streaming the Crimson Diamond demo, and yeah, we're gonna hang out, do that. And yes, let's see what else. Okay, so did I have anything else I wanted to mention today? Thank you guys for listening, by the way, and I really appreciate the feedback. And like I said, I'm going to hopefully be putting that up um, just as a general video for anyone who thinks it might be useful to show other people. It'd be cool. And what else? Just to... Oh, Slat Studio, thank you. Coming from a teacher, you say really well done. Thank you, I appreciate that. I really do. Just to repeat the stuff I said at the very beginning of the stream in case anyone missed it. Let's see. I just put up a link. The Crimson Diamond was nominated for the most anticipated Canadian game of the year by CanadianGameDevs.com. And so there's a link there if you want to vote for if you indeed think it's your most anticipated Canadian game of the year. So that's something cool. The other thing, oh great, it just did it again. The other thing is we have new emojis for chat. So those are the ones we have right now. And I don't know, I was so excited that I had them that I kind of didn't think too clearly on what I was going to do, who they were going to be. But that's what we have now. And so yes, Francisco was right about, oh yeah, I think Julia, you can have 3 emojis. And I just could not wrap my head around it. But there we go. There we go. Other thing was, I've mailed out the holiday cards finally for this year. So the $5 tier Patreon people will get their cards hopefully in the next few days. Next week I will share the artwork on Twitter and everywhere else. And I'm really happy with it. I think it's the best one yet. So I'm really excited about that. Has anyone figured out how to get the emojis? Yeah, Bill, I have no idea. So the 2 that we have now, that anyone who can buy them with whatever the channel points are or the subscription are the Nancy Maple one and the logo. But I don't know about the other ones. I don't know how you guys get those. Like the Nessa and the Jack. I don't know. Oh, higher subscription tiers. Okay, well, anyway, that's fine. Oh, good. And the Deluxe Tux is another teacher. Oh, thanks, Deluxe Tux. Says that the presentation had the same enthusiasm for the subject matter that keeps me coming back every week. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good night, Slash Studio. Good night. Good night. Thanks for coming. Oh, did Froy ask confirmed release date? There is no confirmed release date. I'm so scared. It's supposed to be the end of this year. Yeah, Bill Kuhn. I guess I guess it's for now. It's the logo and the Nancy Maple. I didn't know if the logo was a good choice. I don't know if I can change it. If anyone has another suggestion for what they want that second logo to be, second emoji to be, if they don't want the logo, then we could maybe switch it up for something else. Kimmy, for the other one. I see. If I get more subscribers, at some point you'll get more emote slots unlocked. Okay, that's fine. I'm not too bothered. I just thought it was cool that it was there. And then yeah, like now we have the Nancy one and then the logo one, so that's not too bad. But I think. Always time for D says Kimmy seems to be Nancy's only friend, so it only makes sense. Yeah, actually, I don't mind that the logo actually. It reads surprisingly well at that really tiny size. So I'm probably just gonna keep it being the logo and Nancy. Yeah. Okay. So, I think you guys, I think that's gonna be it for tonight, and it's because I would go a bit longer, but my mom's birthday is tomorrow, and I have to paint this. So every year I make these cards for people's birthdays and stuff like that. So, oh, do the Butler's Lover, thank you for voting. Yeah, so the past few days I've been, so you can still kind of see the pencil marks, maybe underneath. Yeah, so you can see some pencil marks in here, but I've got this. This is all penciled, and I have to paint it now. So that's going to be the rest of my night, and I'm going to use my watercolors. Yes, Dido Edenwith, you remember her? You remember her name? I'm going to use these beauties. I'm going to use these beauties to paint with tonight. So, yes, thank you, Jim Plays Games. Happy birthday, my mom. I know I'm cutting it close. I've been just so busy. I got the holiday cards yesterday delivered, and I stayed up until 4, writing them. I thought I was gonna get started on this. I thought I was gonna get started painting last night, but I stayed up super late already. I wanted to get the cards out so badly. So, yes, yes, don't stick in the envelope with wet paint. No. Yes, Dido emoji. Oh, deluxe texture right, Dido emoji. I'm so glad you guys know her name. Yeah, Dido, the cat. Thank you, always time for tea. Thank you for wishing my mom happy birthday. Happy Crimson Tuesday, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. These are always a pleasure to do. I don't know what's going to happen next week. I have to talk to Dan. We'll see if we can come up with something. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Hopefully, we'll do something. But thank you guys so much for coming tonight and sort of watching me go through that whole presentation. I I was actually when I was wrapping it up, I was thinking at the back of my head, "Oh my gosh, this is only 20 minutes long. I talked way too fast, and it's gonna be over way too soon. Uh-oh." And when you guys told me that it was the 45 minutes, I was super relieved. Although, of course, I've gone through runs of this on my own, just about every night, um, for the past few days or so. So I thought it was about 40 minutes, but when I wasn't looking at the time at all when I was doing this, so you just never know. So it's really cool that I hit that sweet spot. Um, really relieved about that, actually. Yes, mum. Yeah, in my Canadian accent, mum. Did I talk too fast, actually? Because that's a problem I have too. Before we go, last thing. Talking speed was good. Okay. Okay. Because I know, yeah, if my tendency is to go quick. Okay, didn't feel I talked too fast. Okay, good. Okay, so I feel like that's pretty good. I'll practice it a few more times before the actual presentation day. Um, but I think that's good. I think we got some good work done today, and now I don't have to go through it again today because we've already done it. Okay, great, good talking speed. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, but yeah, that's all for tonight because yeah, I need to get going. I need to get going on this thing. But thank you so much, you guys, for coming. It's like I said, always good to see you guys. We'll see what happens next week. But yes, have a lovely rest of your night and do something fun, hopefully. Good night. Bye.